Okay, hey friends. All right, let's go over what we need to cover this week. We've got about 10 items on the agenda, which is a good thing. This is really where the rubber hits the road. Once I can kind of see what your skill set is already, then we can kind of really improve it from here. So, we're going to be talking about last week's quiz. There was a question that was kind of interesting. I want to cover that question specifically. Why the grades were restricted, what you can improve on your speeches going forward, and also I want to talk a little bit about how general education works generally. Hopefully, that'll help you kind of understand a little bit of the give and take of what it is to be a general ed professor. Okay, so let's start there. Let's start with a general ed kind of overview. Now, I'm gonna side note narrate this. That is what we called a transition. So when I'm going from one topic to another topic, or you are in your speeches, I expect to see something that obvious. If it is so obvious it feels painful for you to write or to say, that is exactly what we're looking for. Okay, so general education. The goal here is to have a standardized experience for every person who takes public speaking. And they do this across the university. So everyone's kind of having the same requirements placed upon them. So you all are seeing assignments here that are required of every public speaking student. What that means for us as a department and many departments on campus is that there is one person who creates what the course is going to look like, and the other professors support that person, and then they mentor the students through the process of the course that they've created in those nitty-gritty details. One of the challenges I have found is that, and I didn't catch early on, and this is on me, is that the textbook that was used to create this course was an older version of the textbook than what we use in Top Hat. And so if it feels like there's some incongruency in the quizzes, that would be why. However, when I looked at the analytics on the quizzes, you guys are all doing really great. So please don't ever feel overwhelmed or like, they didn't teach us this. That's my super okay. Sorry, that is one of my pet peeve excuses because we're not in elementary school anymore, right? We're kind of above and beyond. Right now, this is about critical thinking. So that's what we're looking for. Okay, so just know that if there are mistakes in here or it seems different or something doesn't seem to align or whatever the case might be, then what I need you to do is I need you to just send me a message. Let me know because it's something that I didn't catch in my detailed review of the course and I need to go back and fix it. Okay, so that's the first thing. I had a couple of people do that and I really appreciate that. All right, the next thing that I want to talk to you about is the last week's quiz. Again, very obvious transition, but it gives you a very clear direction as to where we are going. So I'm going to go to quiz 6 and 9 here, chapter 6 and 9. So I actually had reorganized the chapters to reflect by topic instead of by like this kind of like topic or like this chapter based progression. That's why you're getting all these different approaches to the class. So, having said that, I want to do a little preview. Now, notice you have 2 attempts on every quiz. So, if you feel like, oh, I didn't really get the grade I wanted or I want to repair that, just go back and do it again. Like, it's no problem. Okay, oh, this is not the one I wanted. I want to the next quiz. Maybe? Okay. There's a question in particular that I'm looking for, and this is very embarrassing. My guess is that it is probably in not module 2. Sorry, not that you need to hear me giving all kinds of commentary on how I'm controlling the screen. Okay, so let's try this again. It is the last question. Drat. Okay, so just so you know, I try to do 5 questions for each chapter that you are reviewing. There was a question, and I don't know why I'm not seeing it right now. This feels incredibly awkward. But there was a question about whether or not your outline becomes your script. And it's been divided. 50% of people said yes, 50% of people said no, and the correct answer is yes. So if you missed that question and you want the point for that, go ahead and send me a message in Canvas in the inbox, and I will fix that for you. But the truth is the reason why we have you do such detailed full sentence outlines is because what we're hoping to do is give you a script that you are going to be presenting to me as a speaker. Now, if we were in a face-to-face class, it would be the script that you give. So that answer is true, but it seemed like it was confusing. That one I was hoping, that was an implied critical thinking question, but it seemed like it didn't quite hit the mark like I hoped it would. Okay, so speaking of like grades and adjusting grades, some of you may have been trying to look at your grades and you found that they were restricted. So I can't show you my grades tab because basically it gives you information that I am not legally, and I mean that dead seriously, legally allowed to share with you. But if you hit the grades tab and you weren't seeing your grades, it's because we were wanting you to focus on learning, not necessarily on the letter grade. But having said that, some of you, that's just your priority. I do acknowledge that this is a general education class and you really just want to check that box. So I opened up the grade book, so you should be able to see your grades. Okay, so let's talk about the speech process and also how you submitted your videos. Okay. When an outline is given to you, particularly an outline template, you want to follow it line by line. And the reason I say that is because the rubrics also follow the outline template line by line. So when I'm grading you, I'm literally following your outline that you're presenting to me. Now, if you miss a sentence, and it's like part of a story, that's not going to be as big of a deal. But if you miss a transition, that is going to be a big deal. Or if you miss a preview in an introduction, that is going to be a big deal. So just be mindful that what I'm expecting you to present is the templated outline, which is in line with the rubric. Okay, having said that, here's some feedback from this introductory quiz. Speech. The introductory speech, even though this probably felt redundant to some of you, actually teaches you the process of public speaking. Now, if you're like, well, I've been speaking for years and I know someone in my life who's a speaker or blah, 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 blah. If they haven't had professional training, they should have had coaching of some kind, right? If they haven't had that, odds are pretty likely they're not doing it right. And we could have a big debate about that. But the thing I want to point out, and the thing that I think is probably most important, are two terms. One of them is called the primacy effect, and one of them is called the recency effect. I'm just going to bring this up because I thought I would be showing the screen a little bit more. So I can type these out for you. You can do a little bit more research. So primacy effect and recency, not regency. If you know, you know. Recency, I'm not spelling that right, effect. Okay, these are psychological effects. We're going to correct that. What that means is we remember what we're first exposed to and what we end with. Okay, so if we were to pop over to the introductory speech, so you should be working on your great speech this week. Let's look at this rubric. Okay, so notice how like a major part of this rubric is actually the first paragraph and the last paragraph. We're looking for primacy. What are you saying to us in the beginning? And what are you saying to us in the end? Okay. I cannot underscore enough how important this is. Every single speech you give will have an attention getter. This can be a question. This can be some way to draw your audience in. Then you're going to make some kind of thesis statement. In the case of the introduction, it's about you. In any future chat, any future speech that you give, it's going to be the overall topic. Then you must preview your main points. Okay. After you preview your main points, what is not mentioned here, but is what is here, are the signposts and transitions. Where are you taking me next as an audience member? What am I listening to that you are going to say? Okay, then you move into the body. Notice how the body of the speech, which is the bulk of what you write, is only worth less than a third of the points compared to the organization and presentation of the speech. I just cannot emphasize that enough. And then we pop down here with the conclusion. I want a summary, which is previewing the main points, but we're doing it again in the summary. And then that attention getter that we got to open up, we're going to use some parallel version of that to close it off. Okay, that pattern is the same pattern you will use for the next 3 speeches that you give, which is the bulk of your grade. So this speech was just a way to kind of say, hey, here's the format. Let's give it a go and see how you do. And now we can improve on that. This last one I want to speak to as well. This is the verbal and nonverbal delivery. What this means is, do you use a lot of filler words? Do you pause? That's okay. I don't mind that. But do you pause and then do you start giggling? And then in this class, you probably re-record. So most of the time, I don't really see tons of nonverbal challenges in these classes. This is also like speaking too fast or speaking too slow. So just be mindful that this piece is also just as important. No, your body main points, worth 5. Here, your verbal and nonverbal delivery, like your tone of voice, how quickly or how slowly you spoke, whether or not you used filler words, whether or not your face reflected the proper emotions. This is also whether or not you met the time requirement. They're worth the same amount of points, friends. Okay, so hopefully you can see that like content is less important. I mean, it's important and we want it well sourced and well written, but what's more important is that we're actually teaching you the organization of the speech. Okay, so one final thing that I want to bring to your attention. Okay, actually, I'm going to go to the speech that you have coming up this week, which is your great speech. And I want to highlight something in particular. Oh, we're doing culture paper first and the great speech outline. Okay, so you're doing your culture paper assignment. You guys, this assignment is worth twice as many points as your last assignment was. And notice that these assignments every week increase 25 points. Okay, so this is module 5, great speech, 75 points, 25 more than the culture paper. You have 2 options for submission, and I'm going to adjust this. You can use YouTube. This is my preferred method. There were 2 of you who used YouTube. Thank you so much. The reason why is if you directly upload it, then I have to download it onto my laptop. Not that it's hard. It's not hard. It's just inconvenient. Okay, so I feel a little bit like a baby. But the other option you have that most of you used is that you can actually use Canvas to record. And those are my favorite because they're already embedded in the grader. It makes it easier for me to use a rubric and everything. Anyway, but my first preference is YouTube. If you will please upload to YouTube and then submit the link. Next would be to use Canvas. And if like those 2 are absolutely not working, then you can upload a file. And if for some reason Canvas is down, you can always send me a message in the inbox here or to my Outlook. So I'm going to go back to the home screen and remember our welcome and course resource module, our favorite one. Okay, if you click on the syllabus here, everything you need that you've asked me about is probably there. You can email me at bridgetscheffer@uvu.edu. All right, friends. I hope this helps. Please let me know if you have additional questions. This week's module is fairly straightforward. You're going to be writing a paper. This is the only paper that you will write in this class. I mean, with the exception of the outlines because they need to be like paper, but please make sure they're in outline form. All right. Have a good one. You're doing great. Really, truly.